Welcome to the Couch, Figs. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Naomi and Deborah. It's nice to be here.
It's so nice to see you. So we're always interested in how therapists find their way to EFT. So
hmm
would like to start by asking, how did you learn about it? And, tell us a little bit about maybe where you are on your EFT journey.
Right. Okay. That's a great question. Thank you. So I just naturally gravitated to doing couples work. And I'm sure that'll become clear why in our conversation. And I remember going and talking to a really good friend of mine, like relatively early in my journey with being a couples therapist. And I asked, so he primarily does couples counseling. His name is Jim Mateo Shepherd. And yeah, he primarily does couples counseling and primarily uses EFT as his model. And I remember asking him, how many of your couples come back for a second session? And he said, all of them. And that, because, I that was kind of like really, I'm sorry, what? Like, because I thought I was doing really good, right? But I was losing people, right? I wasn't getting an alliance, right? With people all the time. And so that really stuck in my stomach. Like I'm not doing as good as I thought I was doing. And so I was, what is this EFT you talk about? Right. So then I set about learning it, and it was an incredibly painful journey for me to learn EFT. Right? Emotionally, like unbelievably challenging. But in terms of my own relationship and getting to know myself, like I could not tolerate sitting in the trainings, because I was so stirred up emotionally in my own process. Anyway, so that was kind of what motivated me. Feeling like a failure as a couples therapist is usually how I get better at, like, even now. Right.
Man, I love the honesty, because I think all of us probably had that, but nobody would have the nerve to say it. So I appreciate that you shared that.
Oh, thank you.
Cool. That's so cool. Well, we heard so many nice things about you, Figs, but one of the things we've noticed and we know is that you're very creative, and you've done some really cool things online to access people. And actually I went on and did, I wish I could name it, because it was an initial questionnaire about your relationship. I did it.
Oh, yes, the empathy assessment process.
I know. Yeah. The first question is, do you believe that empathy is important, I think?
No, I think, the first question is, your relationship important to you?
Oh, yeah. It's really sweet. But anyway, now I've been getting some sweet emails from you about...
Oh, good. I'm glad you like them.
Hey, Deb and Steve. And it's like, it feels like somebody cares about us. It's really...
Well, that's good.
It's like, wow, she knows me. Anyway, so we were curious. How did you come up with empathy.com? And what are your goals? And why do you think, empathy is so important? Can you tell us a little bit about that? The big question.
Well, so firstly, I'll just tell you what empathy does, right? Like, so empathy is first, empathy, I'm hoping to build empathy into the go-to place to get relationship help and guidance online. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know there are a lot of therapists like listening to this, but I don't really see why relationship guidance should only be in the realm of mental health. And so like shamans back in the day, back in their little village of about 200 people, didn't have like a consumer protection agency and a licensing board. So what I'd like to do is like the big mission is democratize access to the best relationship guidance. It should be available to everybody, regardless of how much money they can pay, regardless of where they live, and try and really help people get over the stigma of reaching out for help, right? Because this is like as obviously we're in agreement as EFT therapists, but the mission is to help people get it. Like, hurting in love is the most natural thing in the world. Don't you dare be ashamed of it, right? So that's what empathy is really trying to do.
Can I just pause for 1 second? Because I want to applaud you. That is unbelievable. I just love that. I didn't realize that's where you were coming from. That's beautiful.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Because
sorry, as I take a drink of coffee. I just had to take a drink of coffee to resource myself getting complimented. Right? It was incredibly threatening. Which again, like I know because you have therapists listening, that can make you right. It makes sense to people that being acknowledged can be emotionally, whoo, I'm in trouble here, right? But yeah, so that's the goal. And but the first part I realized is like, I do a first session, and I look at the first session is like, look, it's a performance, right? I do a performance. Right. Like I see what's going on with the couple, and then I reflect back to them the entire map of EFT, given what I've heard them tell me. And it's almost like people have like a really good minister where they have people leaving the church at the end of Sunday going, okay, I've changed, right? So like I want them to have that experience from a first session. Now, look, you and I both know, like by the time you get home on Sunday, you've already had a road rage incident, right? Like, you know what I mean? That it doesn't last having a big like spiritual entertainment experience, right? But at least it can get people bought in to the process. Don't know why like my computer keeps moving. Oh, I keep hitting my mouse pad, sorry, with my hand. I get too excited. Okay, so the idea is like, look, come here, this is ridiculous. People have to pay me so much money for me to tell them, like, here, I hear you, you make sense, there's nothing to be ashamed of, you're just hurting because you love each other. Like, right, like why not be able to give them that experience for free, or at least some version of it for free, right? So that's like the doorway of empathy, as you said, the relationship quiz and the assessment and the podcast and the videos, and we just turned the empathy quiz into a chatbot, and so like I'm working on the final like nuances to that, like turning it into a chatbot process, which I'm really excited about. That'll launch soon. And, we've webinars and courses. And so the idea, yeah, like I said, is just get all these resources to people so more people can access the wisdom of emotionally focused couples counseling, understand attachment, emotional bonding, how much love means to people. So that's the mission. Now, did I answer your question?
Well, how about, so that helps us understand the company empathy, and it's such a beautiful purpose behind it and intention.
Yeah.
And how would you maybe kind of talk about the word empathy with the why, and maybe why you called your company that, and why you think empathy is important?
Right. Well, firstly, the big thing is, look, I couldn't buy empathy with a y.com. So like the reason it's called empathy with an I is like, that's all I could afford. Right. Well, you know what I mean? And in San Francisco, like you just you change the name a little bit and it makes it cool. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. But basically, yeah, look, if I could get empathy with a Y, I would have, right? But really, look, the key transformational moment is people having a shared empathic experience. Right. That's like all roads. Everything I'm trying to do is to help people get to a place when they're in my office or when they're going through any of this stuff online, that they go from their reactive self or talking about the world, seeing what the world is doing to them, to feeling their own vulnerability and pain, and then reaching out from that place to another, and that other person being with them in the felt experience of that pain. And then here they are together. Right, in an empathic moment. So I look at myself and I always feel like I'm a crafts person. I'm an artist, right? And I get worried saying it, right? Because there's therapists out there that are spitting out their coffee right now going, right, artist, my arse. But like my craft is getting people to feel their most vulnerable feelings and sharing it, and then holding them in that emotional process, like that empathic emotional moment or experience, so they really, really can take it in, and they can realize this place that we usually try and avoid feeling inside ourselves, and then thus we avoid feeling it with each other, is actually the most magical place we could ever feel and share with each other. So that's why it's called empathy, right? Because that's what it's all about. And it really stuck with me, something I heard from, and I never remember, is it Rebecca, Jorgensen or Sue Johnson, who said it to me first, but like the number one intervention we use is relentless empathy. And that I always stays with me, right? Because, you know, like it just, you know, I'm always working never to challenge people, you know, like how I can get people quicker to the place where they want to look at themselves and understand themselves and maybe consider changing their behavior if I'm relentlessly empathic. Right. So
I think there's really something to be said just for our, you know, non-psychology listeners, that, you know, most behavior, even behavior that kind of seems crazy or drives us crazy or is so annoying, is really understandable when you place it in context.
Absolutely.
And I think you're saying is that, like, when we can show warmth and understanding for somebody's behavior because we're able to place it in a place where it makes sense, then they can kind of soften. They don't have to have their quills up and keep trying to convince us how the world has done them wrong. I think that's what you're saying.
Exactly. That's exactly it, right? I always say, like, there are no angry people in the world. There are just hurting people that play angry people on TV.
Yeah.
Right. That's just like, it's just a strategy. They're like, you know, and even an unconscious one. It's what they're doing, right? To protest, or there are no real quiet people. This is just what they're doing to survive the way they're hurting. And if I can see the hurting part, even if it's really, really well hidden, and I know, even as I'm validating and talking to the angry part or the quiet part, or the, you know, shut down part, the whole time I know who I'm really talking to. Like, I know, you know, there's a little one inside there that's really hurting. So you know, and where I learned, you know, there are many places I learned this, but I would say one of the ones that's most alive for me, actually, you know, today is you know, I used to live at Esalen, and when I first left Esalen, the re-entry into the world, you know, Esalen, the, you know, retreat center in Big Sur.
I didn't know you could live there. Hang on, we got to hear about that. That's like, we have Kripalu on this coast.
Oh, so. Yeah, Kripalu is great. A lot of the teachers go back and forth. Yeah.
How long did you live there?
I was there a year and a half.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Was it heavenly?
Oh, it's amazing, right? You get to sit still, and all these amazing people from all over the world come to visit you and teach you, and right. And so a lot of what I learned, you know, in terms of how to do the real foundational work, I learned there, right? In terms of how to notice what I'm really feeling, how to express it, how to be able to stay inside myself as I'm in contact with another human being, be affected. And then I actually learned a lot of that through movement and improv. So sometimes I tell people, I don't know if I've learned more about how to be a couples therapist through improvisational dance or through the training of a couples therapist, you know? So, and then massage as well. Like, massage is the same. Like, how can I still be inside myself and yet be in contact with another? There's amazing, you know, all that somatic stuff, how much you can learn about what's really going on inside yourself, inside another person, and between the two of us, right? But you know, the first thing I did after I left Esalen is I worked at a homeless shelter in Berkeley. I stayed up all night with these, you know, the 18 to 25-year-old street kids.
Wow.
And at first, when like they really scared me. They were angry, right? You know, and like they're fighting with each other. They're threatening to beat me up. And like, you know, after a couple of months, like the angrier and the more upset they seemed, the more heartbroken I was, right? Because I got it, right? Like, you know, you stay up all night with someone that like for 2 hours are threatening to kill you. And then they're like just a little baby sitting on a couch, curled up, terrified. So sometimes, just like, you know, when couples come to see us, it's easy to see the cycle sometimes when it's a big fight, right? It's easy sometimes when you see big reactivity to realize, oh my God, there's just a really hurt little person in there. So that really helped me, because those kids are some pretty big reactivity, and it made it actually easier for me to see, you know, ironically, right, or paradoxically, just how much they're hurting.
Well, and it sounds like I love the way you're kind of talking about how to be in my body
Right.
and yet be with other people.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying that after, um, maybe we're even going to call it training, the training you
Yeah.
received, the wisdom you received from these kids. It
Hmm.
sounds like you're saying maybe before that in your body, you might have gotten dysregulated yourself if you were around people fighting, and that you
Oh,
had
yeah.
some kind of a shift working with these kids so that if you were with couples after that and they were fighting, you wouldn't get so jacked up yourself. Like you
Yeah.
would just understand what it was
Yeah.
and then you could
Well,
say,
yeah. I mean, there's obviously nuances to that. You're right to a certain degree. What I would just say is what I know in my non-escalated or non-activated brain is
Mhm.
that, right, the only reason someone's protesting disconnection or their worst behaviors are because they're hurting inside. And my job is to find the hurting place. And when I say find it, I mean, like, look, someone's going to come in, they're going to be shouting, tell me their partner is horrible, they're an asshole, right? Like my article, right?
Mhm.
And I'm going to like validate that part of them and see if I can find a hook for me to be able to really see them as a really vulnerable person, right?
Mhm.
Because I like, and then like you said, then like we, as you put it, like it's in context.
Mhm.
Now it's completely different now. Like all of their shouts, all of their calling their partner names in the session, trying to convince me they're an awful person. Now it's just a little kid, right? Going, I hate, like standing at the top of the stairs going, I hate you, mommy. I'm leaving. I'm
Mhm.
packing my bags and I've written my to go letter, like, you know, my goodbye letter, right? And look, you know, good parents, right? They sit at the downstairs and they go, oh, little darling loves us so much. Oh, bless their little heart, right? They know that it's not that they hate them, right? It's like, oh my God, look how much our kid loves us,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right.
but by the way, you bring up a really interesting point. Always, you know, I gives my opinion, right? I don't think you can be a good couples therapist without having trauma in your
Mhm.
own life. I think you gotta you know, I know deeply the pain of feeling abandoned. I know deeply the pain of feeling rejected. I know deeply the self-judgment of being too much. I know
Mhm.
deeply the self-judgment of being
Mhm.
not enough. And
Mhm.
so I get dysregulated all the time, right?
Mhm.
I have to, right? I
Mhm.
have to. I got to feel what my clients are feeling. And, you know, for better or worse,
Mhm.
I have those rooms inside of me with little kids inside of me that are
Mhm.
still here and know that pain.
Yeah.
And so I hope I never lose contact with it, right?
Mhm.
It's not going to go away,
Mhm.
right? And as I joke with my wife, our kids will probably not grow up to be good couples therapists. Right? I
hey,
mean,
you've ruined them.
I know. I'm sure they'll have their own betrayals in life, right? Life is guaranteed to betray them somehow, right? You know, they'll have their own hero's journey. But
Yeah.
most likely, the way things are going, it's not going to be that attachment wounding of, are you there for me? Am I enough for you?
Mhm.
You know, which, you know, yeah. So no more couples therapists in the family.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, speaking of, I love the, you guys have put out some, at least one that I know of, great
Yeah.
video of you with your wife,
Oh,
Teal.
yeah.
And I'd love to know, you work together and you've shared openly some of your relationship patterns. I am really curious and
Yeah.
kind of eager to know, what is it like doing the work with your partner? And I know definitely, you know, I can have my moments with
Yeah.
my husband. You know, sometimes they're even public. You know, it's
Yeah.
just not
Totally.
pretty. And I'm kind of curious as to what that's like to work with her.
I mean, I think it's brilliant. Like, it's not a job, it's a way of life. Like, this is like a 24/7 thing, right? You know, you know, like I'm a wounded human being. My wife is a wounded human being. When couples come in and they're telling us about the way they didn't feel prioritized or they felt like their partner's like, you know, always complaining about them, like, I'm like, are you kidding me? I felt that way last night, right? Like, I'm like, yeah, right. So, so like, so I get to like what I'm trying to help like couples learn how to do, right? You know, the whole like recognize you're in a system that's both of you, you're both hurting, you're only hurting because you love each other. You both have reactive behavior that's really annoying for the other person. and you mush all that up together. So now we can actually de-escalate, right? And now we can love and care about the most vulnerable parts in each other. I have to do that 20 times a week. Like, I'm not sitting here on some throne like, yeah, I've already done this and I'm just sitting
I've
back.
arrived.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing this like every day, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, because as I was saying, like the little wounded ones aren't going to go away. So like one of the things I'm always like, I'm not a big believer in like people get to go to the securely attached island, right? That like that none of us have been invited to. It's not happening. I don't know anyone who lives there, right? And the people that think they live there terrify me.
Yeah.
Right, because we don't know what's lurking deep inside them. They don't even know what it is themselves, that they really think they have arrived, right? So anyway, so yeah, look, I'm the best it gets is I can realize the way in which I'm a wounded human being. I can transition from my judgment and reactivity to feeling that pain, reaching out and sharing it, and my partner is willing to do the same. And so working with my wife is like, and that she's on the same page, right? Like, and loves the same approach and methodology, right? Thank God.
Right.
I'm trying to remember when I first met her, she was into psychoanalysis, and like, thank God, right? Thank God, like, you know, she was into all this attachment stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I can't. What's it called? Lacanian, right? She wanted to analyze my words and stuff. I'm like, for flip's sake. Now, come on now, God, right? But luckily, we not out of any convincing on my part. She like found a home in EFT too.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. We wanted to ask you too. One of the other ways we had heard about you was this great article that had circulated around, and we'll put it on our Facebook page too. But it's an article about what to do when your partner is an asshole. And I have to read my little favorite tidbit because, well, maybe it describes me the best. It says, okay, in quote here, by the way, if you're thinking, I'm never an ass when I fight, that may be your biggest assholic trait. If you claim to be above reproach and believe that your partner needs to get their shit together and sorted for everything to be right in your world, that's a full-fledged master of the jackass arts territory. I love that. I just love it so much. How did you come to write this article? And it's right. So.
Well, you know, like I was saying, like I'm hoping people can get to a place that they feel safe to take a look at themselves and be curious about themselves. And one way to do that is humor, right? And if I am going to risk giving someone a reflection of themselves, how do I do it in the most non-threatening way possible? And I was looking like I'm doing two things at the same time. I'm holding up a mirror to someone, and I'm holding my hands up, going, "Hey, no, come here. I'm not a threat." Like I'm sitting backwards, going, "Oh," like a soccer player that kicks you, right? You know, like a soccer player kicks you, and then they put their hands up to the ref, go, "I didn't do anything."
Yeah.
Right. So, and humor is a great way, right? To, you know, what is it they say? Like, I love this Russian. Of course, I don't know it in Russian. In every joke, there is a little joke. Right. So it's like, you know, the way in every joke there's some truth. It's the other way around. Actually, the joke is the tiny part. The truth is the big part.
Okay.
Right. So in humor, we can reflect the truth in a non-threatening way, and then plant a little seed that person might be willing, who's reading the article, sitting with me in person, might be willing to be curious about themselves and do a little self-exploration. Right? So, yeah, and with this in particular, right, these are like 99% of the people that come to see me, they're each telling me about how terrible their partner is. Right. There are two narratives, right? Like, I know how we could have a better relationship if so-and-so would get their shit together, right? Then everything would be okay. And then I get to talk to the other person. They're like, you know, well, thank you, Your Honor. Now it's my turn to rebut and tell how the other person is the asshole, right? And then, right, my job is to help them get like two things, right? One is to actually see that there's actually a shared narrative that both of them fit inside, right? You know, that you're in a system, both of you are hurting, both of you are acting in ways that could land on the other person like you're an asshole, right? Which is a tough way to say it, but you know what I mean? Like the way you protect yourself is actually really annoying to other people. And then, of course, if we could get to there, then the person might be able to look and see, you know what, it does make sense. The things that I do when I'm actually not feeling connected to you are really irritating and annoying for you. That must be really hard to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Where I usually end up with a fight with my wife, right? Let's say I'm hurting inside, I'm grumpy, I'm blaming. And then once I realize what I'm doing, I usually end up at a place where I'm saying to my wife, like, how do you put up with me?
Aw.
Right? So I'm hoping, right, that everyone comes to my office as the world-renowned expert on the problems of their partner.
Mm-hmm.
And through working together, they're
Mhm.
actually going to become the world-renowned experts on themselves and the way they're kind of difficult when they're hurting. And they're both going to be the world-renowned experts on their system together,
Mm.
right?
Awesome.
So I do have a patent in for a surgery though on this because and again, I don't want to upset any, EFT couples therapists because this will totally put all of us out of business. Like I've yet to find a couple that'll agree to this, where I'm going to like do couples surgery. I'm going to take out the part of, one person's brain that knows everything the other person does wrong. And then at the same time, right, I'll have Teal, my wife, will be taking out the other person's part of their brain that knows what their spouse or partner does wrong. And then we're going to swap them.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I love it. I feel a patent in your future.
Exactly.
Great. And I'm okay with it. There's plenty of other work for us to do out there. We just solve the problem.
It's true. Yeah. And look, there's a lot of YouTube videos on how to do surgery and
exactly.
No problem. Next weekend you'll do
exactly. I think it sounds very safe. I think it's a good idea.
No.
This kind of makes me think, and I love what you're saying, and I think about what it takes for our clients to let go of, that the problem is the partner, and it's so risky and terrifying, to be vulnerable, to say I'm sorry, to say that I'm wrong.
Right.
I could kind of feel some clients saying like, yeah, but why is that so important? Do I really have to go there?
Right.
And what if I'm really terrified? What if I just have this kung fu grip on it, and I can't let go of it.
Right. Well, so here's the good news. So I always say like, sorry, smarry. I do not care about people saying sorry, right? Sorry is the cherry on top of a cake, right? And come here, I don't know about you, but I hate those plastic red straws like cherries. They're disgusting. They don't even taste good. It's not necessary. What we have to have is the cake. And the cake is the empathic experience. Now, if you have the empathic experience and then you want to say sorry, go for it, knock yourself out, right? But what matters is we get to a place, right, that I actually now get that we're both hurting, the way we're both reacting was hard, and now I see you as a hurting person, not as a reactive person that's threatening me, and I actually feel it in my own gut. It makes me want to puke to see like the way you've been hurting, and it's all because I'm important to you, or you long to be enough for me, and like you then see it in my eyes. Oh geez, he gets it now. Now that's it. People are always like, so what do we do next? Don't even worry about saying sorry. If you at that point want to say sorry, brilliant. But it's not going to be as important as it is now. Once we cross that threshold that you've had an empathic experience like that, the world is completely different. Not that the world has actually changed on the outside, but you have changed so much inside yourselves, who you are. What you think you need on the front end of that will not be what you need on the back end. So that's why I was like, all I do is get people to enter this emotional landscape, stay there, even though it's terrifying and there's snot and tear. Okay, no one's going to come see me ever again. Right? But like, if we get there and we have those experiences, everything changes. You don't have to worry about what you do. Forget apologies.
Yeah.
I love that. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, you can, I love your description, because what you're saying is what we word as people don't change from explanation, they change from experience.
Right. Exactly.
And you're kind of saying the cake is having that experience of feeling in your body that your partner gets it.
Yeah.
And then and you being the one to get it, right?
Right. So here's a like the cake. I have like a cake analogy, right? People come to see me and they have all the ingredients that they try to make a cake, but all they manage to make is a pile of shit. Right. Is all they do. And then they come see me and they bring all these ingredients that's a pile of shit, which is their disconnection, their fight, right? The way they're like both feeling hurt and annoyed at each other, whatever way their struggles play out. Then I take the exact same ingredients and we reorganize them and we help them have a slightly different perspective of it. And it makes a beautiful cake.
Oh.
And they're like at first going, what is this magic you are doing? Right? Which we know is not magic, right? It's just EFT, right? I've not added anything. The exact same thing that they're going, this is a problem, Figs, they now see as, oh my God, how did we not realize this all happening because we love each other so much? All right. And they're staring at each other's eyes and they're touching each other's noses, right? And they're like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then the next part is I have to help them eat cake. Now, some people eating cake is really easy, right? And the eating the cake is that they're actually able to truly love those most vulnerable parts in each other, right? Like a lot of times in EFT, we don't have to do anything for the eating cake part. They just friggin' like you get them to that place where you're hurting, I'm hurting, and we love each other. And it's a cinematic moment. They fall in each other's arms and they're freaking loving the little vulnerable parts in each other, right? But other people are like orphan cheetahs. And so here's the thing about cheetahs. Cheetahs, right, by nature know how to hunt rabbits. Right? If you were two cheetahs and I released a rabbit in your room, the two of you wouldn't even make a choice. Well, hey, you'd be running up and chasing the rabbit around your room, right? You wouldn't even know why you're doing it. It's just like, well, this is just what I do, right? But a cheetah has to be shown by their mother, their primary caregiver, how to kill a rabbit and eat it, right? So we can walk people through that. You see, oh my God, the same ingredients that made a pile of shit is actually a beautiful, gorgeous cake. And then a lot of people are not orphan cheetahs. They saw enough love in their lives that they'll know how to be vulnerable and let the other person love them when they get there. But then we have certain clients that they're not going to be able to do that. We're going to get to that moment where they're de-escalated and they're going to look around like an orphan cheetah going, well, I'm starving and there's a rabbit at my feet. What the hell do I do now? Right? There's food here and I'm really hungry, but what do I do? So I have to get on my hands and knees, wring the rabbit's neck, and like get all bloody and show them how to love each other, how to be vulnerable and love each other, right? So we're going to take this pile of shit, make it into a beautiful cake, and now we're going to eat the cake, which is now we're going to help you really, really love each other, even though it's going to be a really vulnerable thing to do. And then we say goodbye. And usually with me, it's kind of embarrassing. This part is really embarrassing. Clients at the end, they're saying, look, Figs, I'll see you next week. And I'm saying, no, look, you've graduated. And they're like, don't think you're giving away my spot. I'm like, look, come here. This was the point. I told you at the beginning, this was short-term work. And they're like, no, we'll be here next week. I will change the locks. You can't keep coming. You can do it now without me. You were never supposed to get attached to me. I was just a short-term guide so that you could actually be there for each other. And you've done it. Right? Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love your analogies. I'm going to be thinking about those all night.
I was wondering if you knew how much we loved cake, both of us.
I know,
cake.
right?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about answering some fictitious letters from fictitious listeners?
Great.
Okay.
I'm like, ooh, I'm not prepared, but yeah, let's go. Good.
Okay, Deb, do you want to go
I'll
first?
go first, sure.
Okay.
All right. When my partner and I are not getting along, one listener asks, I find she avoids me. If I'm in one room, she is in the other.
Right.
I feel really bad. I don't know what to do about it. When I finally asked her about it, she said that she needed her space after a fight and nothing good would come from talking about it anyway. This led me to feel pretty discouraged about us. What can you do if your partner doesn't think talking things through will make it better?
Yeah, that's a really tough one, right? Ooh, really painful. Well, so look, the best thing you could do is get him into couples counseling. right? Because, you know, like we're saying, all roads to a better relationship must pass through, you see what's happening as an us problem, not a me or a you problem.
Right.
And so look, both of you are hurting. It makes sense that the person that wrote the letter is really hurting, feeling alone and isolated, and it seems there's nothing I can do to reach you. And then, of course, the other person that's isolating, that sounds really hard to be in a situation where me being me is actually a disappointment to my partner. And my go-to thing to survive a moment of disconnection actually brings my partner to even more disappointment and upset with me. Right? What a disaster for both people. So that's the first thing, right? How do we get them in front of some neutral third party that could tell them what I just told them and tell them over and over again, right? So that both of them feel validated. Well, of course I'm hurting when I can't reach you. Well, of course it must be so hard for you when all you need to do is be alone because you're overwhelmed inside. And then the more you try and be alone, the more disappointed I am in you. Oh my God, this is terrible for both of you. Right? If we can get to that place, right, we have a chance that they could actually have some empathy for each other, and they could have an experience of realizing there is a way through these impossible moments with each other. Now, short of that, right, if you cannot get someone, so one of the other things I always tell people, if you're trying to try and get someone into couples counseling, try and just ask them to come for one session. Do not invite them for a whole process. You, if you're listening to this podcast, right, you're probably like, I love talking about relationship stuff, I'll even listen to it in my free time. Most likely your partner is not like that. Right? So don't be asking them, hey, come here, I know this amazing way of helping relationship, and all it'll be is every week for the next year of our lives, right? They're not going to say yes to that. So just ask them one time, 1 hour. And this therapist has told me nobody's ever died in his office. Right? No one dies. Right? Worst thing that happens is you're going to be unbelievably uncomfortable for an hour, but you will survive. Right? And so just one session in front of an EFT therapist that actually knows how and is committed to feeling both of your pain and telling you you both make sense and you actually could work together to make this better. And then they'll come back. Right? My job is to help someone that does not want to be there, has no interest in talking about their feelings, come back. Right. So that would be my number one thing. Now, short of that, right, what I would like, if that's not even an option, right, then we want to be able to go from, look, here's my story of the other person. They isolate themselves from me. They won't even talk about it. That's my story about them. To noticing I'm in story of them. I'm in awareness that my awareness is like stuck on what they're doing. To then actually noticing when my awareness is stuck on them, what is it that I'm actually feeling deep down inside of me? Like, what is it I feel in my gut? What is it I feel in my heart, right? What's the painful experience that is just mine, right? Whatever, like, and I don't know what it is, right? But I'm sad, I'm lonely, I feel powerless, there's nothing I can do. And so what if then I could go and I could tell them, this isn't so much about me blaming you or thinking you're terrible the way you isolate, right? You be you. And here's the reality. I'm just hurting. I miss you. How do we separate out the judgment of other from my experience and then be able to share my experience that is just mine? Like, come here, like, that's an incredibly difficult, impossible thing to do, like difficult thing to do for all of us, for me. Right, and this is all I do all day, all night, So that's the best we can do if you cannot get the other person to come to see a competent third party.
Boy, I got to tell you though, the best you can do is a lot. I think that was a pretty brilliant answer. Figs, to just make that shift.
Right.
It's small, but it's big. And I just, even though we're doing it as a fictitious, it wasn't even a role play, I just could totally feel my wall coming down. Like, I love the way you phrase that. Like, this is what happens inside for me. And I just want to tell you this. I think that's lovely. I think that's a pretty helpful tip.
Oh, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to join in with there's nothing that makes me happier than when somebody who really didn't want to come, who's never been to therapy, who's
Right.
like total therapy newbie, comes and was like, that wasn't so bad, or even
Exactly.
maybe they actually like it. It's like
Right.
it's rewarding. Oh my God, I love it so much. That's all I want.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the other things I always say to people, like, if I only worked with, like, actually, this drives me crazy. This drives me nuts, by the way. Like, I see sometimes on therapist boards, like if both people don't want to be in counseling, or one of them doesn't want to be in the relationship, then we don't have a contract to do couples counseling. I'm like, are you out of your mind? If I only saw people that both of them wanted to be there, or both of them wanted to work on their relationship, I'd be out on the corner here. We wouldn't be able to do this podcast because I'd be out in the corner with a sandwich board trying to find couples, right? It's not going to happen, right? I'm always going to have one or both people that are like, I'm not even going to bother trying this. Let me see what this fella has to say, right? Then, we got to work with what we got. And with what we got, if someone comes in and they're looking at me going, this fella's getting nothing from me. Great. You're welcome.
I think that makes so much sense, because when you've been hurt over and over again, you should be skeptical.
Absolutely.
Why would you go in expecting cake? I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And come here, let me just, and look, the predominant narrative that most people don't even realize they're in, right, is the emotional pursuer, right? The person that's longing for more closeness is the one that's trying, and I'm the one that does everything right, and the other person is the loser in love, friggin' shutting down and getting disconnected, right? So here's the way I sometimes talk about it, right? Imagine their relationship was a high-rise apartment building. The emotional pursuer lives in the penthouse. Now, they're living in the penthouse going, I'm all alone here. And why isn't my emotional withdrawer partner that's down in the friggin' janitor's apartment in the basement, right? Because of how crap they are at loving. Why aren't they meeting me, right? So, well, the janitor's down there, well, I'm not coming out of the basement because I'm going to get my head bitten off, right? Well, here's what I try and do. I have created this well-appointed apartment right in the middle of the building that both of them could live in. So here's the weird thing about couples counseling, right? It is a harder journey for the emotional pursuer to come down from the penthouse to like a beautiful apartment. Still beautiful, but it doesn't have the great views, right? This beautiful apartment in the middle of the building. This is the kind of weird irony. The emotional withdrawer is actually, even though they may have started going, I ain't coming out, I'm staying down here watching TV, leave me alone, right? They actually are often quicker to go, I'm in, where's the elevator, right? Because I'm saying, come here, it's both of you. It's an actual, what I find most surprising, it's an easier journey for the emotional withdrawer to go, even though they start off going, forget this, don't be asking me to go to couples counseling. It's actually an easier journey for them to get on board. I'm telling them they're not all bad. I'm telling the pursuer, hey, you have a role in this, right? The pursuer's like I'm staying up in my penthouse, thank you very much, right? So look, and of course I'm going to half the listeners just turned off, right? That's it. Do not put that figs guy on your podcast. Right.
Who needs listeners anyway? Exactly. Oh, wait, we do. Oh.
So here's the good news in that. Just get your emotionally withdrawn partner to one session, because the journey actually might be easier for them than it is for you. You may be surprised.
It's so true.
I think that's really wise. I love your analogies. I need to come to San Francisco for some therapy, because Biggs is my man.
Awesome. I'm going to steal these analogies. They're mine now, Kate.
Oh, yeah, you steal them. Of course. Mine. Well, come here. Awesome. I don't even know who I steal my stuff from.
All right, I'm going to read the next one. But Deb, you mispronounced the word, so I'm going to pronounce it the proper way. Oh. I know I can be an arsehole when my husband and I fight, and I am really embarrassed about it. Yeah. Mostly I think of myself as a calm, easygoing person, but with my husband, there are things he does that totally set me off. For example, if he tells me he'll be home from his time with the guys so that we can still go out together, and then gets home much later, I just lose it. I say really harsh things, and then I'm just too ashamed to apologize. But I'm also really pissed off that he broke his promise. What do you suggest for someone like me?
Well, look, for the first thing I would do, the most important thing is I would just commend you for even having the awareness you have, right? Because this is 90% of the battle, right? You're actually already further down the path than you realize. To even have written that question,
Mhm.
you are so much further down. Like, because you're not going, ain't no asshole. That person deserved my wrath, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just even making that transition, right? Like to actually hold on a second, damn it, I know I'm hurting and there's a good reason I'm hurting, but oh boy, look what I do, right? I've slashed tires, I've like burnt all their clothes. Can I really blame other people for tire slashing and clothes burning? I'm not sure about that, right? Even the fact that you're willing to go like, even though I'm hurting, there's ways I react that don't actually serve me because, now, my husband won't come home because he's busy fixing his slashed tires, right? Or partner or whatever, right? For coming home. I don't want to make the gender assumption. But,
Mhm.
so look, that's brilliant, right? Keep working on your awareness, right? And I don't know how this will translate. I always look at it as a C, right? If you think like the curve of the C starts in your chest, right? And so what we want to do is at first we're stuck in our story of the other person.
Mhm.
That bloody partner of mine coming home late, even though he promised, right? And so that's easy. Nobody has ever needed my help to get even more clear on their judgment and their reactive emotion and the behavior they do to protest the other person's behavior, right?
That's so great, Figs. How can you help me blame my partner? We don't get asked that, do we?
Now, yeah, every now and again, you do have someone that as you know, you have to help them access their anger, right, and frustration, right? But 99% of the time, right? And by the way, these are all scientific percentages,
Right, right.
reference percentages. But
I think
so
those are
so look, so you're stuck in the other person. Then you realize, look, for flip's sake, I'm doing this. Look at me doing my reactive thing, blame and criticize and being all frustrated. Even if you're right, and this is what I'm saying is brilliant, right, about this question, you already are aware. How would you look at what I do when I'm hurting? And then we can come down and go, well, no wonder I feel this way. Them actually prioritizing me means so much. And I feel sad and it hurts because I love being their priority so much. So now I have the possibility that I can now, with that level of awareness, I start with them. I come back to being aware of what I'm doing. And now I can feel what I'm really feeling in my gut. Now I can complete the C by now going back and talking to them, but from the bottom, not my head, not my reactivity, from my gut and my heart. Right. So you're actually more than like 90% there. The hardest part is the awareness part. So good for you. Right. That's brilliant.
Mm.
You just do those things, those awful reactions, the tire slashing and the clothes burning because you're hurting. Right. And of course you're hurting because being a priority to your partner means so much to you. That's how much you love them.
Mm.
Yeah, I love this. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about how can our listeners and our clients who want more than what they get
Yeah.
in our offices, how can they access some of your programs? And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, it's stuck in my head, what the
Yeah.
heck is a chatbot? And
Oh
tell
yeah.
us a little bit about what you're up to
Right.
and how our folks can get
Great.
in touch with you.
Great. Yeah. Well, so first, the easiest way to go to empathy.com. So that's empathy with an I on the end, not a Y on the end.com. Right. Yeah. One day we'll have empathy with a Y on the end, but probably never. But okay, go to
Cooler way.
empathy.com.
Cooler way. Yeah.
The easiest way, there are videos on the homepage you can watch. There's you can see bios of everyone on the team, right? Right now we've got 7 therapists and coaches working away. And then you can take the empathy quiz on, there's a quiz, what you call it, menu item, right? And if you take the quiz, that's a good way to actually go through the process of seeing yourself from an attachment perspective for free, right? When you don't have to go into someone's office, right? So yeah, you can find me at empathy.com, and there's a whole bunch of things: the quiz, the articles, I've courses that I've created. Yeah, that's a good way to
Awesome.
start.
Great.
We'll put it on our Facebook
Okay.
page so that
Yeah.
people who follow us on Facebook can access it.
Thank you.
This was
Yeah.
so wonderful. Oh my God. I want
Thank you.
to be your new BFF. We got to figure out how we can hang with Big Steph. He's
Yeah, thank you.
completely awesome.
I can't remember
thank
laughing
you.
so much this
I
morning.
know.
That's
Love to
very
laugh.
nice.
And I just love the way you make this. It's just so real and so accessible. And
Thank you.
you know, who's crazier than therapists? I just so appreciate, like,
Yeah,
listen, we all got into this field because we wanted to heal our own wounds if we tell the
absolutely.
truth. And
Yeah.
I'm just so appreciative of just you're just such a genuine person. And I'm just so grateful that you joined us today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I did record this because I'm going to share it with my wife
Awesome.
to let her know that people like me. That I'm not a disappointment all the time. There are people that actually think that I do things. No, yeah. But no. Look, thank you so much for having me on, and it felt really good and safe, right? And like, for me emotionally to share myself, and that means a lot. So I really appreciate both of you, and
Thanks so
thank you
much.
for the
Next time we
opportunity.
got to meet Teal. We'd love to have you
Oh
back
yeah,
and have
There
Teal
you
on
go.
too. That'd be
Sounds
gotta
like
really
a
do-
good
fun.
plan.
absolutely.
Plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be brilliant.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
right.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Yeah,
Figs.
Biggs. We'll
Bye.
see you.
Cheers.
Bye.